My precious child, pause right now. Because what I am about to reveal is not random. It is not a coincidence. It is not just another video you stumbled upon. This is the final spiritual alert you've been walking toward without even knowing it. You thought you were just living your normal life. You thought the strange feelings, the repeated dreams, the sudden delays, the closed doors, the tension in your spirit were all ordinary. But heaven says otherwise. And now, Archangel Michael steps forward with urgency. He says, you have been walking toward danger without even knowing it. Heaven has been warning you, but you keep skipping the signs. Let that sink in. This is not fear. This is protection. This is intervention. Because what you call coincidence, heaven calls mercy. There were moments when your plans suddenly failed. There were opportunities that looked perfect but somehow slipped through your hands. There were people who walked away from you without explanation. You cried. You questioned God. You wondered why nothing was working. But what if those closed doors were shields? What if the delay was divine? What if the confusion you felt was actually your spirit sensing a trap ahead? Listen carefully. The danger was not loud. It did not come with flashing lights. It came disguised as comfort. It came wrapped in familiarity. It came wearing the mask of something harmless. And that is why you did not recognize it. Archangel Michael says the enemy rarely attacks from the front. It whispers from the side. It distracts. It slowly adjusts your direction by just 1 degree. Until one day, you realize you are miles away from where God intended you to be. You didn't wake up one morning and choose danger. No, it happened subtly. A compromise here, a small disobedience there, a voice you ignored, a warning you dismissed. And every time heaven tried to nudge you, you said, "It's nothing. I'm overthinking." But your spirit was not overthinking. It was discerning. There is something you have been tolerating that you were supposed to confront. There is a connection in your life that feels off, but you keep justifying it. There is a decision you are about to make that looks logical on paper, but feels heavy in your soul. A heaviness that is not anxiety, that is a warning. Archangel Michael stands as a warrior of protection, not punishment. He is not speaking to condemn you. He is speaking because the window to turn back is still open, but not for long. You have been sensing restlessness, a spiritual agitation, almost like something inside you keeps saying, "Stop. Slow down. Look again." That is not random. Heaven has sent signs repeatedly, through conversations, through sermons, through strangers, through sudden thoughts that came out of nowhere, through dreams you brushed off, through this very moment. And yet, you kept scrolling. You kept postponing. You kept telling yourself, "I'll deal with it later." But later is not promised. This is the final spiritual alert. There is a path in front of you that looks bright but leads into confusion. And there is another path that looks uncertain but leads to peace. The dangerous path is attractive. It feeds your ego. It promises quick results. It makes you feel in control. The safe path requires surrender. And that is why you hesitated. Archangel Michael says the danger is not just physical. It is spiritual misalignment. It is drifting slowly away from your divine assignment. It is becoming comfortable in a place that is not your calling. You have been feeling tired lately, not just physically, but spiritually. That exhaustion is not from work. It is from resistance. Resistance against what you already know you must change. Be honest with yourself. Here is a habit you keep defending. There is a conversation you keep avoiding. There is a truth you keep postponing. And every time you silence that inner conviction, the warning signs grow quieter. Heaven does not shout forever. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it shakes. And sometimes it sends a final alert. This is that alert. Archangel Michael says, you are not too late, but you are closer to danger than you think. That relationship that feels slightly manipulative, that opportunity that seems too fast, that agreement you are about to sign, that secret you are keeping, that environment draining your peace. One of these holds the doorway to unnecessary struggle. You were not meant to learn this lesson through pain. You were meant to learn it through discernment. And right now, discernment is knocking loudly. Have you noticed how certain plans keep getting delayed? How certain people suddenly reveal strange behavior? How certain ideas lose their excitement the moment you pray? That is not coincidence. That is interception. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of your future, sword drawn, not against you, but against what is trying to ambush you. But here is the truth you must face. Heaven can warn you. Heaven can block doors. Heaven can send messengers. But heaven will not force your choice. You still have free will. And the reason this message feels intense is because the decision window is narrowing. You are being asked to pause, to reassess, to step back before stepping forward. You have been walking toward something that looks like progress but carries hidden consequences. Look again. Pray again. Question again. Because this time, ignoring the signs will cost more than inconvenience. It will cost time, energy, peace, alignment. And you have already lost enough of those. Archangel Michael says, if you listen now, the storm will pass you. If you ignore this, you will walk into what you were warned about. Let this moment mark a turning point. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now, close your eyes for a second and ask yourself, what have I been ignoring? The answer will come quickly. That is your sign. This is not fear speaking. This is protection calling your name. And something powerful is about to be revealed next because the danger is not what you think it is. Beloved soul, what I am about to uncover now will shift how you see the last few months of your life. Because the danger you have been walking toward is not just an event. It is a pattern. And patterns are more dangerous than sudden attacks because they slowly reprogram your direction without you realizing it. Archangel Michael is not pointing at one single mistake. He is exposing a cycle, a quiet drift, a subtle agreement you have been making again and again. Every time you said, "It's fine," when your spirit said, "Be careful," you strengthened that pattern. Every time you chose convenience over conviction, you adjusted your path slightly off course. And here is the shocking truth. The danger was designed to feel familiar. It feels like something you have experienced before. It feels like an opportunity you have always wanted. It even feels like an answer to your prayers. But heaven says, not every open door is sent by God. Some doors test your discernment. Some doors measure your obedience. You have been asking for elevation. You have been praying for increase. But what you did not realize is that before elevation comes examination. Before promotion comes purification. And the enemy knows that if it cannot stop your destiny, it will try to distort it. Archangel Michael says the warning signs were subtle but consistent. The uneasiness you felt when certain conversations happened. The strange tension in your body when you were about to agree to something. The way your peace disappeared when you entertained a particular thought. These were not random emotions. They were spiritual alarms. But you kept silencing them with logic. You told yourself you were being dramatic. You told yourself you were overanalyzing. You told yourself to relax. Yet deep down, something kept whispering, "This is not aligned." Alignment is everything. When you are aligned with your divine assignment, things flow with clarity, even when they are challenging. But when you are misaligned, even easy things feel heavy. Even success feels draining. Even laughter feels forced. Have you noticed that lately? Moments that should feel joyful somehow feel incomplete. Achievements that should excite you somehow feel hollow. That is not ingratitude. That is misalignment. Archangel Michael stands as a guardian of alignment. He does not fight against you. He fights for your purpose. And right now, he is revealing that the danger ahead is not destruction, but distraction. A distraction so convincing that you would willingly walk into it thinking it is your breakthrough. That is why this message is urgent. There is a decision forming in your mind. You have not finalized it yet, but you are leaning toward it. Heaven is asking you to pause. Reevaluate the motives. Is this choice rooted in fear? Is it rooted in impatience? Is it rooted in comparison? Comparison is a silent trap. Watching others move ahead can make you rush into doors not meant for you. Watching others celebrate can make you accept invitations that are beneath your calling. And impatience can make temporary solutions look permanent. Archangel Michael says the timeline you are worried about is not slipping away. What is slipping away is your sensitivity to the Spirit. And that is far more dangerous. The more you ignore discernment, the quieter it becomes. Not because heaven stops speaking, but because your heart becomes accustomed to noise. Noise from opinions. Noise from social media. Noise from fear. Noise from pride. This is why you feel spiritually tired. You have been carrying noise instead of clarity. And now, let me speak directly to you as a messenger of urgency. If this message is stirring something inside you, do not keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who has been acting differently lately. Like this message so it reaches those who are standing at a dangerous crossroads. Comment what you have been sensing in your spirit. Subscribe and become part of this watchful community because we are not here for entertainment. We are here for alignment. When you engage, you are not just supporting a channel. You are helping this warning reach someone who may not even realize they are drifting. Because here is what is coming next. Archangel Michael is about to reveal why the signs intensified recently. There is a reason the pressure increased. There is a reason confusion grew louder. And once you understand this, everything will make sense. So stay attentive, because what unfolds from here may expose the real source behind the path you were about to take. And once you see it clearly, you will never walk blindly again. Chosen one, the intensity you have been feeling lately is not accidental. The pressure increased because you are standing at the edge of a spiritual shift. When someone is far from their purpose, the enemy does not panic. But when someone is close to breakthrough, that is when confusion multiplies. That is when distractions become louder. That is when the wrong voices suddenly grow stronger. Archangel Michael says the recent chaos around you was not random turbulence. It was resistance. Resistance because your spirit was beginning to wake up. Resistance because you were about to notice what had been hidden in plain sight. You thought the tension was about other people. You thought the stress was about money, timing, or opportunity. But look deeper. The real battle has been over your focus. Where your focus goes, your future follows. And something has been trying to hijack your attention long enough to shift your direction. Think about the last few weeks. How many times did you feel prompted to pray, but you reached for your phone instead? How many times did you sense you should pause, but you rushed forward anyway? How many times did you feel a check in your spirit, but overrode it with excitement? Archangel Michael is revealing that the danger you were walking toward was disguised as urgency. It made you feel like you had to act now or lose everything. It whispered, if you don't move quickly, someone else will take your place. It pushed you into fear-based decisions. But divine opportunities do not need panic to survive. When something is from heaven, it carries peace even when it stretches you. It does not demand you betray your discernment. It does not require you to silence your inner warning. It does not rush you into agreement before you have clarity. The danger ahead required you to move without reflection. But with the trap, you were about to commit to something that would slowly drain your energy. Not immediately, not obviously, gradually. Like a leak you barely notice until the tank is empty. Archangel Michael says this drain would not have destroyed you overnight, but it would have delayed your calling significantly. Delay is sometimes more dangerous than destruction, because destruction is obvious and forces you to rebuild. But delay feels comfortable. It feels manageable. And years can pass before you realize you have been circling the same mountain. Heaven has been warning you because your assignment matters too much to be postponed. There is a mantle over your life, a responsibility, a purpose that extends beyond your comfort zone. And the distraction in front of you was specifically designed to look productive while keeping you spiritually stagnant. You would have been busy, but not fruitful. You would have been active, but not aligned. You would have been visible, but not effective. Archangel Michael says you were never meant to trade your destiny for temporary validation. Validation is powerful. It feels good to be noticed. It feels good to be wanted. It feels good to feel needed. But not every place that welcomes you is assigned to you. Some invitations are tests. The warning signs you kept skipping were actually invitations to maturity. Each nudge from heaven was asking, will you trust what you sense, even if it costs you convenience? Each delay was asking, will you wait for clarity, even if it means standing alone? And now the truth stands before you clearly. The fog is lifting. The emotional attachment is loosening. You are beginning to see what once seemed attractive through a different lens. This is discernment returning. Archangel Michael stands firm and declares that the sword of clarity has cut through deception. What once felt irresistible now feels questionable. What once felt urgent now feels suspicious. That shift inside you is protection activating. Do not ignore this awakening moment. It is sacred. Right now, you have a choice. You can go back to sleep spiritually and pretend you never heard this message. Or you can lean into this awakening and allow heaven to redirect your steps. If this message is resonating deeply within your spirit, respond prophetically. Type I receive the warning in the comments if this is speaking directly to you. Blessing code 444 has just been released over your path. This number represents divine protection and stability being restored where confusion once stood. And as you step into this protection, understand something powerful. When you support messages like this, you are not just funding content. You are fueling a spiritual alarm that reaches souls who are silently drifting. Scripture says, as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest shall not cease. This is not just a verse. It is God speaking to you now. When you sow into fertile ground, you participate in someone else's rescue. I feel led to say this clearly. when you choose to give through super thanks, when you join as a member, or when you sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a platform. You are releasing oil into a lamp that refuses to go out. You are becoming part of the warning system heaven is using to awaken the distracted. This is your moment to act in obedience. Do not let hesitation rob you of participating in this harvest. Those who sow into protection will reap divine covering. Those who invest in awakening will walk in clarity. Step into alignment now. Activate your seed, and watch how heaven responds. Faithful one, now that the warning has been made clear and the fog has begun to lift, something deeper must be understood. The danger was never just external. It was also internal. Because the most powerful traps are the ones that connect to unresolved places within you. Archangel Michael reveals that what almost pulled you off course was linked to an old wound, an old desire, an old insecurity that never fully healed. The enemy studies patterns, not just actions. It watches where you once felt rejected. It remembers where you once felt overlooked. It observes where you still crave affirmation. And then it sends an opportunity that seems to heal that very ache. That is why it was so convincing. It looked like the answer to a prayer you prayed years ago. It looked like justice for a season where you were ignored. It looked like recognition for a time you felt invisible. But what appears to heal on the surface can sometimes reopen wounds underneath. Archangel Michael says you were about to say yes not because it was aligned, but because it felt validating. And validation can be intoxicating when you have been waiting a long time to feel seen. Be honest with yourself. Did you want this opportunity because it was right, or because it finally made you feel important? Did you want this connection because it was healthy, or because it filled a lonely space? Did you want this move because it was divine, or because it proved something to someone who once doubted you? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations to maturity. Heaven is not trying to embarrass you. Heaven is trying to elevate you. But elevation requires honesty, and honesty requires courage. The reason the signs were easy to skip is because part of you did not want to see them. Discernment often challenges what desire defends. You sense the inconsistency. You notice the subtle red flags. You felt the hesitation in your spirit. Yet you told yourself, maybe I'm just afraid. Maybe this is my breakthrough. Fear and discernment can feel similar, but they are not the same. Fear pushes you to run away from growth. Discernment pulls you back from danger. Fear is loud and chaotic. Discernment is calm but firm. Archangel Michael stands as a guardian between these two voices. He says, learn the difference, and you will never be easily deceived again. There was a moment recently when you almost committed fully. You were close. You were ready to finalize your decision. But something interrupted the process. A delay. A conversation. A sudden shift in timing. You were frustrated then. You thought it was an obstacle. But now you can see it differently. That interruption was mercy. Heaven will sometimes slow you down when you refuse to stop. Heaven will sometimes block you when you insist on proceeding. Not to punish you, but to preserve you. Preservation does not always feel pleasant in the moment. It can feel like rejection. It can feel like failure. It can feel like humiliation. But later, when clarity arrives, you realize you were being shielded. Archangel Michael says the shield is still in place, but it will not remain forever if you keep pushing against it. There is grace in this moment. There is space to recalibrate. There is time to realign. But that grace must be respected. You are being invited into a higher level of spiritual sensitivity. Not just reacting to events, but discerning atmospheres. Not just hearing words, but sensing intentions. Not just chasing outcomes, but aligning with purpose. The danger you were approaching would have required you to compromise your spiritual standards slowly. Nothing dramatic at first. Yes, small adjustments. Small silences. Small agreements that seem harmless individually but destructive collectively. That is how destiny drifts. Archangel Michael says, your calling is too sacred to be negotiated. There are people connected to your future who are waiting for the aligned version of you, not the distracted version. There are doors prepared for your obedience, not your impatience. There are blessings reserved for your discernment, not your desperation. The reason this message feels intense is because you are not ordinary. If you were meant for mediocrity, no warning would be necessary. If your path held no significance, no resistance would appear. But the level of opposition you sensed is proof of the level of impact you carry. Let that encourage you. You are not being attacked because you are weak. You are being targeted because you are strategic in the spirit. And Archangel Michael fights for strategic souls. Now the choice stands clearer than before. You can step back from what glitters but drains. You can release what flatters but misaligns. You can walk away from what validates temporarily but compromises eternally. Or you can ignore this awakening and convince yourself that everything will somehow work out. Heaven will not force you, but heaven has spoken. The next revelation will uncover something even deeper. Certain people reacted strongly when you began to question your path. Their reaction was not random. And once you understand this, you will see the spiritual dynamics at play more clearly than ever before. Anointed soul, now we must uncover what truly shifted when you started questioning your path. The moment you hesitated, the moment you slowed down, the moment you began to discern instead of rushing forward, something around you changed. Certain people became uncomfortable. Certain conversations turned tense. Certain energies felt different. That reaction was not random. Archangel Michael reveals that whenever a chosen one begins to wake up spiritually, those who benefited from their confusion feel threatened. Not always consciously, not always maliciously, but spiritually, there is a reaction when alignment returns. Some people grew accustomed to you doubting yourself. Some environments thrived when you were unsure. Some dynamics worked in their favor when you ignored your inner warning. But when you began to question things, you disrupted an invisible agreement. And disruption exposes motives. Think carefully. When you started pulling back slightly, who pushed harder? When you said, "I need time to think," who tried to rush you? When you expressed uncertainty, who tried to minimize your concerns? Gresham reveals hidden intentions. Archangel Michael says, watch who becomes agitated when you seek clarity. Not everyone around you wants you harmed. But not everyone is assigned to protect your destiny either. Some are simply comfortable with the version of you that is easier to influence. The danger you were walking toward involved people who preferred your compliance over your conviction. They did not mind you moving forward, as long as you did not ask too many questions, as long as you did not challenge inconsistencies, as long as you did not fully awaken. And when you began to awaken, subtle resistance appeared. Maybe it showed up as guilt. Maybe someone made you feel selfish for slowing down. Maybe they accused you of overthinking. Maybe they suggested you were sabotaging your own opportunity. But discernment is not sabotage. Archangel Michael stands firm and declares that clarity often threatens systems built on assumption. If someone becomes defensive simply because you want confirmation, that is information. If someone becomes irritated because you want prayer before commitment, that is revelation. The truth does not fear examination. The danger ahead required you to trust blindly. It required you to override your instincts and lean solely on external persuasion. It required you to ignore the small inconsistencies in favor of a larger promise. But here is what heaven is showing you now. What glitters under pressure often cracks under reality. You were about to invest time, energy, and emotional commitment into something that would have slowly reshaped your identity. Not overnight, not dramatically, but gradually. You would have adjusted your standards to keep the peace. You would have silenced your concerns to maintain momentum. You would have sacrificed your inner calm for outer success. And the scariest part is this: you would have justified it. Archangel Michael says the enemy rarely tempts you with obvious destruction. It tempts you with slight compromise that feels reasonable. It says, just this once. It says, you deserve this. It says, you can handle it. But small compromises accumulate. The reason heaven intensified the warnings recently is because the commitment level was about to increase. What was once casual was about to become binding. What was once flexible was about to become permanent. And once certain agreements are made, they are harder to undo. This is mercy in motion. You may feel embarrassed that you almost stepped into something misaligned. You may feel frustrated that you did not recognize the signs sooner. But shame is not your portion. Awareness is your portion. Archangel Michael does not expose to humiliate. He exposes to liberate. Right now, liberation is unfolding quietly within you. The emotional attachment is weakening. The excitement that once blinded you is fading. You are starting to see beyond surface charm into deeper substance. And that clarity is a gift. Do not allow anyone to rush you back into confusion. If someone truly values you, they will respect your need for confirmation. If something is truly ordained, it will withstand examination. If a door is truly divine, it will not collapse because you pause to pray. The shift you are experiencing is growth. You are no longer easily impressed. You are no longer easily pressured. You are no longer willing to trade peace for applause. Archangel Michael says, this is the maturity that protects destiny. There is also something else you must understand. The enemy miscalculated. It assumed your desire would overpower your discernment. It assumed your impatience would silence your intuition. It assumed you would choose speed over wisdom. But you are not who you used to be. The very fact that this message resonates means your spirit is alive and alert. You are not asleep. You are not blind. You are not powerless. And now that you see the dynamics clearly, the hold they once had over your thinking is breaking. Yet there is still one final layer to uncover. The danger was not only about distraction or compromise. There is a deeper reason this trap was crafted so carefully around your specific desires. Archangel Michael is about to reveal why your destiny carries such weight in the spiritual realm, and why the opposition seemed unusually strategic. When you understand this next truth, you will no longer question why the warnings were so persistent. You will realize that heaven was not overreacting. Heaven was intervening because your future carries influence far beyond what you currently imagine. Warrior of light, what you are about to understand now will reframe everything. The trap was not random because your destiny is not random. The level of strategy used against you reveals the level of influence attached to your future. The enemy does not invest this much subtlety into someone who carries no impact. Archangel Michael says, the intensity of the resistance is proof of the magnitude of your assignment. You wondered why the situation felt unusually layered. Why it wasn't a simple temptation you could easily reject. Why it came wrapped in opportunity, affirmation, and emotional appeal all at once. It is because your calling requires depth, and so the distraction had to be deep. You are not just meant to succeed. You are meant to shift atmospheres. You are meant to break patterns in your family line. You are meant to influence decisions that ripple beyond your immediate circle. And if the enemy can delay that influence by even a few years, it considers that a victory. Delay was the true objective. Archangel Michael reveals that had you stepped fully into this misaligned path, you would not have immediately fallen. You would have functioned. You would have even appeared successful. But underneath, your spiritual sharpness would have dulled. Your prayer life would have become mechanical. Your discernment would have softened. Slowly, subtly, almost invisibly. And one day you would wake up wondering why you feel disconnected from the fire you once carried. That is what was at stake. This was not about one bad decision. It was about gradual spiritual erosion. The kind that feels normal because it happens slowly. Have you noticed how easy it has been lately to become distracted? How simple it is to postpone prayer? How natural it feels to rationalize what once would have convicted you? That atmosphere did not form overnight. It was cultivated. Archangel Michael stands as a guardian of your spiritual edge. He fights not just for your safety, but for your sensitivity. Because once sensitivity is lost, compromise becomes comfortable. But hear this clearly. You are not too late. The fact that you are still wrestling, still questioning, still listening, means the erosion has not completed its work. The warning interrupted the process. This interruption is sacred. You may feel like you have been in a battle internally, weighing options, going back and forth. The tension is evidence that your spirit refused to surrender quietly. There is strength in you that you underestimated. And now, you must make a decisive shift. You cannot continue entertaining what you have already discerned as misaligned. You cannot keep one foot in clarity and one foot in confusion. A decision drains more energy than a wrong decision. At least a wrong decision teaches quickly. Indecision prolongs uncertainty. Archangel Michael says, choose alignment boldly, and watch how quickly fog dissolves. There will be a moment very soon when you are presented with another chance to move forward with what you almost committed to. It may look slightly different. It may sound more convincing. It may even address some of your previous concerns. But your spirit will recognize the core remains unchanged. This time, your response must be firm, not emotional, not reactive, just clear. And let me speak directly to you here. If this message is awakening you, do not keep it silent. Like this video so it pushes this alert further into the digital space where someone else desperately needs it. Share it with a friend who has been standing at a confusing crossroads. Comment what your spirit has been sensing. Subscribe and become part of this community that values discernment over impulse. When you engage, you are not just interacting. You are amplifying protection. You are helping this message travel to someone who may not have the spiritual vocabulary to understand what they are feeling. Because what comes next is critical. Archangel Michael is about to reveal how to restore what was almost drained. How to sharpen your spiritual edge again. How to rebuild sensitivity so you never miss warning signs at this level again. This is not just about avoiding danger. It is about strengthening perception. It is about upgrading discernment. It is about stepping into a version of yourself that cannot be easily manipulated by flattery, fear, or false urgency. The battle exposed your vulnerability, but it also revealed your potential. You were tested because you are trusted with influence. And as we move forward, you will begin to understand how this near miss was not just protection from loss, but preparation for promotion. What is about to unfold will show you how heaven turns all its mistakes into accelerated maturity. And once you see how to reclaim your spiritual sharpness, you will never approach opportunity the same way again. Hold on to this momentum, because the next revelation is where restoration begins in full clarity. Steadfast heart, restoration does not begin with activity. It begins with stillness. After exposure comes recalibration. After warning comes rebuilding. And now Archangel Michael is not just standing as a protector before you. He is standing as a teacher beside you. You were shown what almost happened. You were shown the pattern. You were shown the prayer. Now you must be shown how to strengthen your discernment so this level of subtle danger never catches you unaware again. Archangel Michael says the sharpening of your spirit requires separation before elevation. There are voices that must grow quieter in your life. Not necessarily because they are evil, but because they are loud. Discernment cannot thrive in constant noise. Your spirit needs room to breathe again. Think about how often you have been surrounded by opinions, advice from friends, influence from media, expectations from family, commentary from colleagues, each voice pulling slightly in different directions. No wonder clarity felt distant. Heaven is inviting you into intentional silence. Not isolation from the world, but intentional withdrawal from chaos. There is a difference. You do not need to disappear. You need to refocus. Archangel Michael reveals that your discernment was not weak. It was crowded. Too many external inputs diluted your internal compass. And when your inner compass is diluted, even small magnetic pulls can shift your direction. Restoration begins by reclaiming your internal authority. You must return to the place where your first instinct was prayer, not panic. Where your first response was reflection, not reaction. Where your first filter was peace, not pressure. There is something powerful about slowing down before responding. The trap you almost entered depended on speed, and depended on emotional momentum. It depended on you making a commitment before clarity settled. From this point forward, make it a principle. No major decision without stillness. Archangel Michael says, peace is the confirmation. Pressure is the warning. If something demands immediate agreement and becomes irritated when you ask for time, treat that irritation as information. What is secure does not rush. What is genuine does not collapse under examination. Another key to restoration is honesty with yourself. You must identify what inside you was attracted to the distraction. Was it recognition? Was it companionship? Was it financial security? Was it validation? There is no shame in acknowledging your desires. But unacknowledged desires become hidden doorways. When you bring your desires into the light of prayer, they lose the power to secretly control you. Archangel Michael does not ask you to deny your humanity. He asks you to sanctify it, to submit it, to refine it. You are not wrong for wanting growth. You are not wrong for wanting connection. You are not wrong for wanting success. But when desire outruns discernment, vulnerability increases. Restoration also requires forgiveness, not only toward others, but toward yourself. You may feel disappointed that you almost misstepped. You may feel frustrated that you ignored signs earlier. But condemnation weakens clarity. Grace strengthens it. Archangel Michael says, learn the lesson without carrying the shame. This near miss was a classroom, not a courtroom. You were educated, not sentenced. Now something profound happens. When you consciously choose alignment after being warned, your discernment level upgrades. You become less easily flattered, less easily pressured, less easily manipulated by urgency. You begin to sense motives beneath words. You begin to detect energy shifts in rooms. You begin to feel when something sounds right but sits wrong. That is spiritual maturity. And maturity brings confidence. Not arrogance, not suspicion, but grounded awareness. As restoration unfolds, you may notice certain invitations fade away naturally. Certain people pull back. Certain opportunities dissolve without confrontation. Do not chase what leaves when you choose clarity. Archangel Michael says, "What cannot remain under discernment was never meant to remain in your destiny." There is peace in the truth. The path ahead will not be empty. It will be refined. The distractions will thin out. The noise will soften. And what remains will be aligned. You are not losing opportunity. You are filtering it. And something else is happening behind the scenes. As you choose wisdom over impulse, heaven recalibrates timelines. Delays caused by almost mistakes are shortened. Lessons learned quickly accelerate future trust. Your spiritual edge is returning sharper than before. But there is one more layer to address. Protection and restoration are powerful, but there is also a prophetic assignment connected to this warning. This was not only about saving you from danger. It was about preparing you to warn others. Archangel Michael is about to reveal how your experience becomes someone else's breakthrough. And once you see how this near detour positions you as a guide for others standing at similar crossroads, you will understand why this battle was permitted in the first place. The next revelation will show you how your testimony becomes a shield for many. Awakened vessel, what you survived was never meant to end with you. The warning you received carries echoes meant for others. Archangel Michael now reveals that your near encounter with danger was also preparation for intercession. You were not just being protected. You were being positioned. There are people in your life right now who are standing exactly where you were weeks ago. They are excited about something that looks promising. They are emotionally invested in something that feels validating. They are brushing aside subtle discomfort because the opportunity seems too good to question. And you can see it now. You can sense the pattern because you almost stepped into it yourself. That is not coincidence. That is qualification. Archangel Michael says, "The rescued become the watchman." A watchman does not stand on a wall because he is superior. He stands there because he has perspective. He sees what others cannot see yet. He recognizes danger before it becomes obvious. Your discernment has been sharpened not only for your own destiny, but for your circle. Your testimony will carry authority because it is authentic. When you speak caution, it will not come from theory. It will come from lived revelation. But here's the challenge. You must speak with wisdom, not pride. It is easy to look back and say, "I would never fall for that." But humility keeps your discernment clean. Remember how convincing it felt. Remember how logical it seemed. Remember how emotionally satisfying it appeared. That memory keeps compassion in your warding. Archangel Michael instructs you to pray quietly for those who are walking near similar traps. Not to control them, not to expose them publicly, but to cover them spiritually. Intercession strengthens unseen boundaries. There is someone specific who will cross your mind as you hear this. Someone whose recent excitement has made you uneasy. Someone whose urgency feels familiar. That nudge to pray for them is not random. This is how influence expands. When you respond to your own warning properly, heaven trusts you with influence over others' safety. Influence is not always about leadership titles. Sometimes it is about spiritual responsibility. You are stepping into a new level of responsibility. The same way Archangel Michael stood at the edge of your decision with a drawn sword of clarity, you will now stand in prayer at the edge of someone else's crossroads. You will not force their choice, but your intercession will create space for them to hear their own warnings more clearly. This is generational impact. The danger you avoided could have created ripple effects, emotional strain, financial setbacks, spiritual dullness. Those ripples would have touched others connected to you. By choosing alignment, you did not only protect yourself, you protected future conversations, future collaborations, future assignments. And now your obedience becomes a covering for more than just your own path. There is also a deeper revelation. The enemy misjudged you. It believed your desire would outweigh your discipline. But your hesitation proved something powerful in the spirit realm. It proved that you are teachable. It proved that you value peace over pressure, that reputation matters. Archangel Michael says, heaven records moments of obedience. When you resist subtle compromise, you build credibility in the unseen realm. That credibility opens doors that force could never open. It attracts partnerships that are stable rather than dramatic. It positions you for assignments that carry longevity instead of short-lived excitement. But remain alert. Discernment is not a one-time achievement. It is a lifestyle. Do not relax into overconfidence. Continue practicing stillness. Continue questioning urgency. Continue choosing peace as your compass. The moment you assume you are beyond dissection is the moment vulnerability returns. This is not about paranoia. It is about posture. Your posture now is different. You are more grounded, more observant, less reactive. You sense atmospheres before committing. You examine motives before celebrating invitations. That maturity is part of your promotion. If this awakening resonates with your spirit, seal it prophetically. Type "I stand watchful" in the comments if you receive this mantle of discernment. Blessing code 911 is being released as a sign of divine alertness and heavenly intervention over your household. And as you step into this watchful assignment, understand that this message reaching others is not accidental. When you sow into spreading prophetic warnings like this, you extend protection beyond your immediate circle. Scripture declares that those who sow generously will reap generously. This is not a passive verse. It is a living promise spoken over you now. When you release support through super thanks, when you join this channel as a committed member, or when you give through the PayPal link in the description, you are not just funding content. You are lighting torches on spiritual walls. You are helping establish watchmen in places where confusion reigns. I declare that every seed sown into this mission becomes a shield over your future. Those who give into warning will walk under heightened protection. Those who invest in awakening will reap clarity in their own decisions. Do not hesitate when obedience nudges you. Act swiftly. Secure your part in this harvest, and watch how heaven multiplies discernment over your life. Courageous one, now that you understand your role as a watchman, there is another layer that must be revealed. Protection is powerful. Discernment is essential. Influence is significant. But none of it matters if fear quietly replaces faith. After a near miss, it is common to become overly cautious, to question every opportunity, to doubt every new connection, to hesitate even when something is genuinely aligned. Archangel Michael wants you to hear this clearly. Wisdom is not suspicion, and caution is not fear. The enemy would love to push you into the opposite extreme. First distraction, then distrust. First deception, then isolation. But neither extreme is divine. You are not called to walk in paranoia. You are called to walk in perception. There is a difference. Perception is calm. It observes without panic. It discerns without assuming the worst. It asks questions without creating accusations. Fear, on the other hand, is loud. It anticipates betrayal. Its bets collapse. It interprets silence as threat. Archangel Michael says, do not let a rescued moment become a restrictive mindset. You avoided one trap. That does not mean every door ahead is a trap. You escaped one misalignment. That does not mean alignment is rare. In fact, the opposite is true. When you pass a test of discernment, heaven entrusts you with better opportunities. But you must be open enough to recognize them. The danger you were walking toward was loud and urgent. The opportunity coming toward you will be steady and peaceful. It will not demand instant commitment. It will not flatter excessively. You will not push your emotional button. Instead, it will feel grounded, almost simple, maybe even less dramatic than what you almost chose. Do not confuse drama with destiny. Many people mistake intensity for purpose. They think if something feels overwhelming, it must be significant. But some of the most aligned doors enter quietly. They do not need fireworks to validate them. Archangel Michael reveals that your next aligned step will feel different in 3 ways. First, it will allow you to remain yourself. You will not feel pressure to perform or reshape your personality. Second, it will respect your need for prayer and confirmation. Third, it will strengthen your peace rather than disturb it. Watch for those signs. Here is also something you must release fully before stepping into what is aligned. You must release the fantasy version of what you almost chose. Sometimes what keeps us attached is not reality but imagination. We grieve what could have been, not what actually was. Ask yourself honestly, were you attached to the actual substance of that opportunity, or to the picture you painted in your mind about it? Archangel Michael says, let go of imagined futures that were never written for you. When you release fantasy, gratitude grows. You begin to see how protected you truly were. You recognize the subtle inconsistencies you once ignored. You acknowledge the emotional hooks that once pulled you. And gratitude stabilizes discernment. There may also be lingering voices around you saying, you missed out. Some may not understand why you stepped back. Some may believe you were overcautious. But their perspective does not define your obedience. Not everyone will understand spiritual alignment. Your responsibility is not to be understood by all. Your responsibility is to remain aligned with what you have discerned. Archangel Michael stands not as a crowd pleaser, but as a guardian. Sometimes protection looks unpopular, but time will vindicate wisdom. Months from now, you will look back and see outcomes you avoided. You will notice complications that would have entangled you. You will recognize patterns that would have drained you. And relief will replace regret. The near miss will transform into a testimony. And testimony carries weight. There is someone who will approach you in the future, excited about a similar opportunity to the one you almost accepted. They will ask your opinion casually. But beneath that casual tone will be vulnerability. Because you have walked this path internally, your words will carry unusual authority. You will speak calmly. You will not exaggerate. You will simply ask the right questions. And those questions will create clarity for them. This is how your rescue multiplies. But before that season fully unfolds, there is one more critical preparation. Archangel Michael is about to reveal how to build spiritual consistency so that future warnings are recognized earlier. Not at the edge of commitment, but at the edge of suggestion. Imagine sensing misalignment at the first whisper instead of after emotional investment. That level of discernment is possible, and it is cultivated intentionally. The next revelation will show you how to establish daily habits that fortify your inner compass. Because protection is not only reactive, it is proactive. You have been saved from one detour. Now you will be trained to avoid many. Faithful guardian, what you avoided was powerful, but what you are about to build is even more powerful. Avoiding danger is one level of growth. Establishing consistency is another. Archangel Michael now shifts the focus from rescue to discipline, because discipline preserves what discernment reveals. You do not strengthen spiritual sensitivity by accident. You cultivate it daily. The reason the previous trap almost worked is because your spiritual habits had become irregular. Not absent, but inconsistent. Prayer when convenient. Reflection when overwhelmed. Stillness only after exhaustion. That pattern leaves small gaps, and subtle distractions slip through small gaps. Archangel Michael says, consistency closes cracks. If you want to recognize warnings earlier, you must normalize communion. Not as a reaction to crisis, but as a rhythm of life. When prayer becomes routine rather than emergency, clarity increases naturally. When reflection becomes habit rather than last resort, misalignment is detected sooner. There is a discipline heaven is inviting you into. Not rigid religion, not heavy obligation, but intentional structure. Begin with your mornings, before messages, before noise, before demands. Even a few quiet minutes of surrender recalibrates your inner compass. It reminds your spirit who leads and who follows. Then guard your inputs. What you consume consistently shapes what you perceive. If your mind is constantly filled with urgency, competition, comparison, and emotional drama, your discernment becomes distorted. Peace cannot speak loudly in a chaotic mind. Archangel Michael reveals that sharpening discernment requires protecting atmosphere. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Not every debate deserves your attention. Not every opportunity deserves your immediate excitement. Slow evaluation is a form of wisdom. Also examine your emotional triggers. What consistently pulls you off balance? Is it the fear of missing out? Is it the desire to prove yourself? Is it loneliness? Identify it clearly. When you name a trigger, it loses some of its unconscious power. You almost step into distraction because one of your triggers was activated strategically. Now that you recognize it, you can respond differently next time. Another key to consistency is accountability. You need at least one voice in your life that values truth over flattery. Someone who can ask you uncomfortable questions without fear of losing access to you. Discernment thrives in environments where honesty is welcome. Isolation weakens the perception. Community refines it. Archangel Michael stands not only as your protector but as a reminder that spiritual strength is reinforced through alignment with others who pursue clarity. Seek conversations that challenge your growth rather than simply celebrate your ambition. And here is something vital. Obedience in small matters strengthens authority in larger ones. If you ignore small nudges, larger warnings become harder to interpret. Practice responding to gentle conviction. Practice pausing when peace fades. Practice withdrawing when something feels subtly off. Those small disciplines accumulate into powerful perception. If this message is challenging you in a constructive way, do not let it stay private. Like this video so others who need consistency can find it. Share it with someone who has been struggling with spiritual discipline. Comment what new habit you are committing to build. Subscribe and stand with this community that values daily alignment over occasional inspiration. Your engagement spreads structure to those living in spiritual reaction mode. Now understand this clearly. Discipline is not about earning protection. It is about sustaining clarity. Archangel Michael does not protect you because you perform perfectly. He stands with you because you are a sign. But your habits determine how clearly you hear heaven's signals. The season ahead will test your consistency, not through dramatic temptation, but through subtle busyness. Distraction often hides inside productivity. You may find yourself busy with good things that quietly replace necessary things. Guard against that. Schedule moments of intentional withdrawal. Revisit your motives frequently. Ask yourself, is this aligned with my assignment, or merely feeding my ego? Those questions preserve focus. As your consistency strengthens, something remarkable happens. Warnings come earlier. Peace becomes more reliable. Decisions become less exhausting. You no longer oscillate between excitement and doubt. You move with steady confidence. This is the upgrade Archangel Michael is guiding you toward. And what comes next is even deeper. Because once discipline is established, heaven begins entrusting greater responsibility. Not just personal protection, but expanded influence. The next revelation will uncover how your disciplined alignment positions you for doors that carry weight, impact, and legacy beyond what you initially imagined. Called and chosen one, discipline is not the final destination. It is the foundation for stewardship. And now that you are building consistency, Archangel Michael reveals the greater purpose behind this entire warning. It was never only about keeping you safe. It was about preparing you to carry weight. Weight is influence. Weight is responsibility. Weight is spiritual authority that does not crumble under pressure. When someone is about to be entrusted with greater influence, heaven refines their discernment first. Because influence amplifies whatever is inside you. If you are aligned, influence multiplies impact. If you are distracted, influence multiplies confusion. The warning came because your influence is increasing. You may not see it fully yet. You may still feel ordinary. But look closely at your life. People listen when you speak. Others observe how you move. Some quietly model their decisions after yours. Influence does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it grows silently. Archangel Michael says, what you carry is heavier than you think. If you had stepped into that misaligned path, your influence would not have disappeared. It would have been diluted. You would still have affected people, but from a place of partial clarity. And partial clarity leads others into partial alignment. Heaven refuses to allow that for you. This is why the warning felt intense. This is why the resistance was strategic. This is why the exposure was precise. You are being prepared to carry clarity that others will rely on. But influence demands humility. The moment you believe you are beyond dissection, you become vulnerable again. The moment you assume your discernment is flawless, subtle pride creeps in. Pride clouds perception faster than distraction does. Archangel Michael reminds you that humility keeps vision clean. Continue to question yourself gently. Continue to invite correction. Continue to seek counsel when decisions carry weight. As your influence grows, so will opportunities that look impressive. Invitations to lead. Invitations to collaborate. Invitations to expand your reach. Some will be genuine. Some will be cleverly disguised distractions. But because you have walked through this season of refinement, you will approach them differently. You will not be seduced by scale. You will not be intimidated by urgency. You will not be blinded by praise. Instead, you will ask one simple question: does this align with my assignment? That question becomes your filter. There is also a legacy component attached to this. The decisions you make in this season shape patterns for those who follow you. If you normalize rushed commitments, others will imitate haste. If you normalize prayerful patience, others will learn stability. Your private discipline becomes public example. Archangel Michael stands not only at the edge of your present, but at the doorway of your future influence. He sees the rooms you will enter. He sees the conversations you will lead. He sees the moments when your steady voice will calm chaotic situations. And he knows that without this warning, you would have entered those rooms carrying subtle misalignment. That is why you were stopped. There is gratitude rising within you now, not for the confusion you felt, but for the clarity that followed. Not for the tension you endured, but for the maturity it produced. Hold on to that gratitude. Gratitude anchors you in awareness that protection is active. It reminds you that heaven intervenes even when you are unaware. It strengthens trust in moments when the next door does not open immediately. Because there may be a brief period now where things feel quiet, where no major opportunities present themselves, where you simply continue building discipline without dramatic reward. Do not misinterpret quiet as stagnation. Quiet seasons often indicate preparation behind the scenes. Roots grow deeper before branches expand outward. Your stability is increasing even if visibility has not yet shifted. Archangel Michael assures you that what is aligned will come without confusion. What is assigned will not require you to betray your peace. What is destined will withstand examination. And when that door opens, you will recognize it not by adrenaline, but by assurance. There is one final unveiling ahead, a sealing moment. A declaration that shifts this from instruction into covenant. The next revelation will not just warn or prepare you. It will activate something definitive over your life. The journey that began with a final spiritual alert is about to conclude with a spiritual commissioning. And when that commissioning is spoken, you will understand that you were not merely protected from danger. You were redirected into destiny. Beloved guardian of your destiny, this is the sealing moment. What began as a final spiritual alert now becomes a divine commissioning. You were not only warned, you were not only protected, you were prepared. And Archangel Michael now stands not at the edge of danger, but at the gateway of your next level. The path you almost chose is behind you. The confusion that once clouded your thinking has lifted. The emotional urgency that pressured you has lost its grip. In its place stands something stronger, conviction. Imagine quiet, but unhittable. You now understand that heaven had been warning you long before this message reached you. Through subtle unrest, through unexplained delays, through conversations that felt off, through moments when peace quietly withdrew. You kept skipping the signs because they were gentle. But now you know gentle does not mean insignificant. Archangel Michael says, "You will never ignore my warnings the same way again." This is not because you are afraid. It is because you are aware. Awareness is a gift purchased through experience. And experience has now marked you. The next time something feels slightly misaligned, you will not override it so easily. The next time urgency tries to rush you, you will pause instinctively. The next time validation attempts to cloud your judgment, you will measure it against peace. That is growth. You were walking toward danger without knowing it. But now you walk with discernment intentionally. That is the shift. And here is the commissioning. You are now accountable for what you know. You cannot return to careless decision-making. You cannot pretend ignorance when your spirit senses caution. You cannot blame confusion when clarity has already been given. With revelation comes responsibility. But do not mistake responsibility for pressure. This is empowerment. You have been trusted with insight. You have been strengthened with perception. You have been refined through warning. Archangel Michael declares that this near detour has fortified your destiny. What was meant to delay you has disciplined you. What was meant to distract you has defined you. What was meant to dull you has sharpened you. There is authority in your spirit now. Authority does not shout. It stands. Authority does not rush. It waits. Authority does not chase. It discerns. The season ahead will present opportunities again. But this time, you will evaluate from alignment, not from insecurity. You will choose from peace, not from panic. You will move from conviction, not from comparison. And when you do, doors that once seemed impressive will pale in comparison to doors that feel divinely orchestrated. Archangel Michael says you were saved from a path beneath your calling. Let that settle in your heart. You were not rejected. You were redirected. You were not delayed. You were developed. You were not overlooked. You were overseen. This is the difference between walking blindly and walking guarded. Now seal this moment with intentional declaration. Type "I walk in divine discernment" in the comments if you receive this commissioning. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over your path, a sign of alignment, order, and divine government restoring structure to your decisions. And as this commissioning settles over you, hear this clearly. This warning did not reach you by accident. Heaven uses vessels and platforms to cry out before danger becomes disaster. When you choose to support this mission through super thanks, when you step into membership, or when you sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are not donating to a channel. You are fueling a trumpet that sounds before destruction. You are placing oil in a lamp that refuses to let souls walk blindly. The Lord declares, as you give, it shall be given back to you, pressed down and running over. This is not poetry. This is promise. When you sow into protection, protection surrounds you. When you finance warning, warning will rise early for you. When you build watchtowers for others, watchtowers will stand over your household. This is a prophetic moment of response. Do not scroll past obedience. Act in faith. Release your seed. Join this mission. Strengthen this altar. And watch how heaven seals your discernment with supernatural covering. You were walking toward danger once. Now you walk under divine guard. This is your commissioning.